IRS has just put out a new major warning to all Americans. Specifically, this is a warning to American taxpayers, urging them to watch out for a new scam, a scam which tricks people into believing that the government actually owes them money. Here's how the IRS described the mechanics of how this new scam works in a statement that they just released. Quote, "The new scheme involves a mailing coming in a cardboard envelope from a delivery service. The enclosed letter includes the IRS masthead and wording that the notice is in relation to your unclaimed refund. Like many scams, the letter includes contact information and a phone number that do not belong to the IRS. But it also seeks a variety of sensitive personal information from taxpayers, including detailed pictures of their driver's licenses that can be used by identity thieves to try obtaining a tax refund and other sensitive financial information." So essentially, people across the country are receiving inside of their mailboxes a cardboard envelope which claims to be from the IRS. Inside of the envelope, there's an official-looking letter telling you that the government owes you money. All you have to do to claim that money is to respond to the letter by sending in a bunch of different personal details, including things like your cell phone number, your bank routing information, your social security number, as well as photos of your driver's license. However, if you actually mail that in, or you call the phone number that's listed on that letter, well, none of that is going to the IRS. It's all going to the scammers, who will then use that information to steal your identity. And according to the statement from the IRS, there are a few details to the scam letter which should serve as essentially red flags right away to anyone who receives it. Here's what they wrote, quote, "There are many warning signs that can be seen in many similar schemes via email or by text. An unusual feature of this scam is that it tries tricking people to email or phone very detailed personal information in hopes of stealing valuable information. The letter tells the recipients they need to provide quote-unquote filing information for their refund. This letter contains a variety of warning signs, including odd punctuation and a mixture of fonts as well as inaccuracies. For example, the letter says the deadline for filing tax refunds is October 17th. However, the deadline for people on extension for their 2022 tax returns is actually October 16th, and those owed refunds from last year have time beyond that. And the IRS handles tax refunds, not unclaimed property." Now, to be frank with you, I'm always surprised that these types of scammers don't fix up the punctuation and spelling issues. I mean, if you're going to be mailing out tens or even hundreds of thousands of these scam letters, you could take a moment to run spell check. Regardless, this is the new scam. And it's also worth mentioning that besides receiving cardboard letters in the mail, the IRS also mentioned that this particular scam can play itself out via email or even by text. Here's specifically what they wrote, quote, "The IRS never initiates contact with taxpayers by email, text, or social media regarding a bill or tax refund. As a reminder, never click on any unsolicited communication claiming to be the IRS, as it may surreptitiously load malware. It may also be a way for malicious hackers to load ransomware that keeps the legitimate user from accessing their system and files." If you'd like to read this full notice from the IRS, I'll throw a link to it down into the description box below this video for you to check out. However, since we're on the general topic of scams, it's worth mentioning that this new IRS owes you money envelope is just one of many new scams that are proliferating across America. For instance, you know how easy online shopping has become nowadays. You just go online, click a few buttons on either your computer or your smartphone, and voila, like magic, a few days later, or even sometimes on that same day, you get something delivered directly to your doorstep. But what happens when the package that arrives at your door is not something you actually ordered? It's got your address, it's got your name on it, but the content inside of that package are completely unfamiliar to you. You look at the item, you rack your brain trying to remember if maybe you made some late night purchase that you just forgot about. You check your credit card history for any recent transactions. You check your order history on Amazon, eBay, and so on, and nothing. You have absolutely no idea where this package with your name and address came from. And so what do you do in that situation? And this is not a hypothetical by any stretch of the imagination, because this very thing recently happened to a close friend of Eric, one of the researchers here at Facts Matter. You can see the package his friend received up on your screen. It contained a cheap Chinese pair of earbuds, a charging cord, a charging case, as well as a bottle of keto nutritional supplements, basically diet pills. And again, all those products were not ordered by the recipient of the package. Now, the first thing that most people would assume when receiving such a mysterious package is that it must be some type of a scam. But how? How does opening a package dropped at your doorstep, one that your credit card and banking history confirms that you never paid for, how does that equate to a scam? Well, in order to find out, Eric the researcher began to dig into it. First, he checked up on the return address that was on the package. And when he looked into it, it turned out to be a USPS store over in California. So that was not much help. But then he noticed that the address found on the label of the bottle of diet pills was the same address as the return label, which was also the USPS store. And so that was obviously very suspicious. Then, to make matters even more confusing, Eric's friend received several unusual emails right around the time that the package arrived. These emails all look like a typical order confirmation email, like the one you see up on your screen. The subject line was, "Thank you for your order," and the sender was a generic no reply type of email address. And then, in the body of the email address, it lists a bunch of prices of purchases, $15, $40, and $70. And so, using this email as a clue, Eric went over to Amazon.com to check the approximate retail value of the items that were sent over, and to check if they indeed cost $15, $40, and or $70. But they didn't. For instance, the cheap Chinese earbuds were just $10, and the diet pills, well, they couldn't even find those. And so, getting desperate for answers, Eric turned to the USPS, who actually provided a likely explanation for what in the world was happening with these mysterious packages. According to this report here from the United States Postal Inspection Service, this package was likely a byproduct of a relatively new type of a scam called brushing. What they found was that unlike most scams, which are looking to swindle people out of money, brushing scams are a bit different. They are essentially a new tactic that are used by online vendors in order to boost their sales numbers on third-party platforms like Amazon. It works a bit like this. For vendors to be competitive on Amazon.com, especially when they're competing against dozens or even hundreds of other people selling similar products, they have to have high star ratings as well as positive reviews in order to stand out from the crowd and receive priority placement on the Amazon results page. And it used to be the case that a vendor could just hire a bunch of people to write fake reviews and pump up their numbers. But recently, Amazon caught wind of that scam and they began to prioritize reviews from verified users, meaning from people who actually purchased the item on the platform. And so, because vendors couldn't just pay people to write fake reviews without receiving the product anymore, they began to use what's known as the brushing scam. What these unscrupulous vendors now do is that they work with people known as brushers, who are typically outside of America because brushing is actually illegal here in the US. And what these brushers will do is that they will go to whatever platform it is, Amazon, eBay, etc., and they will order whatever they need to pump up. They will mark that order as a gift, and they will select a random delivery address in an area where they want to concentrate sales. And in order to get those names, addresses, and emails, they will simply buy them in bulk from a marketing company. That way, they can flood an area with packages, and the names and addresses on those packages completely match up. However, the recipients of those packages are not getting the real items, because what happens on the back end is that this fake transaction creates a real tracking number. But instead of sending out the real item, which might cost, let's say, $70, the brushers instead send a cheap, lightweight item that's delivered without a return address so that it can never be traced back to the seller. And so, in the system, it looks like a real purchase. But in reality, the person on the receiving end, they never bought anything, and they're also receiving just a cheap knockoff of the real thing. But because it looks like a real purchase, these brushers can then subsequently go in and they can write up a 5-star fake review for the actual expensive item. Basically, as long as something is shipped, regardless of what's actually inside the package, you have a shipment that's tied to an order number. And because it's a verified purchase, this order can then pop up as a verified review on Amazon.com. And then, of course, regular actual shoppers will go to the platform, see that that particular product has thousands of 5-star positive reviews, and they will buy that product for real because it stands out from the competition.